Yes, my name is Marty Mascari. I work with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, and we're here today with Jamie Cobb with the James L. West Center to present once again. We're going to be addressing self-care. Care partner self-care and burnout. And but first, we want to talk a little bit about the CEUs. And so you can go ahead and share your screen when you're ready, Jamie, and we'll talk about that.
There we go. Can y'all see him?
I can hear you, but it's not very loud. And that may be just my end. I'm sorry. That's probably my
okay. And y'all can see the slides though, okay?
Yes.
Okay. Let me put them on the right one. There we go. Good. There we go. So we got our continuing education credits, and as partners with Marty and the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, we are happy to provide continuing education credits for nursing, social work, and licensed professional counselors. For this program, we're offering 1.5 credits. We do ask that you attend. You do need to be attending the live webinar, and you need to stay for the entirety of the program. Marty will be sending out a follow-up email within the next day or two with the slides, a copy of the slides, other resources, but also a link to an evaluation. When you click on that link and you'll complete a short evaluation on today's program, then we will get notification and we'll start to process your CE certificate. And we'll get that certificate out to you in the email address that you provide a couple of weeks after this program is ended. So we'll have a period of time where the evaluation is open for everybody to complete that. It'll close on September the 24th, so that's next Friday. Once that evaluation link is closed, you have that time to finish the evaluation, then it'll take us about 10 days to get you your CE certificate to the email you provide. We do allow you, or ask that you allow us a little bit of time and grace to get those certificates to you. It's easy to do everybody all at once after everybody's completed the evaluation. And Marty, I know you're having some sound issues, so I know that if you haven't received your CE certificate or you keep asking about it, if you please allow us until October 10th before you contact him or myself about that certificate. Again, it does take a while to get all these certificates processed and then sent out to you. So we ask for this time to be able to do that before we start. But if it is October 10th and you haven't received it, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll certainly get that fixed for you. But.
Yeah, and one of the issues there, can you hear me? I guess it's still feedback, aren't you?
Yeah.
One of the issues there is the fact that it just takes that much longer if we're having to respond to many emails people ask about it. Shut mine down and turn it over to you, Jamie.
Thank you, Marty. And thank you again for being here and pushing through technology. I said earlier, it can be your best friend and it can be your worst enemy at times. But I'm Jamie. I'm with the James L. West Center. And we're going to be talking about care partner burnout. I think it's supposed to say care partner stress and burnout. And how we identify burnout, what is it exactly? What does it look like? And how do we practice self-care? We'll spend a lot of time about that self-care part. Before we get that, if you're not familiar with the James L. West Center, we are a faith-inspired, not-for-profit long-term care community that also focuses on and specializes in education, of course, the care of anybody impacted by dementia. So those that have a diagnosis and their care partners that surround them. So we do residential care, respite care. We do have a day program that is currently closed, but we're actively getting that to reopen as soon as we possibly can. And then of course our education that y'all are able to be with us today. So we appreciate your support. Our course outline for today, and then a brief bio on myself for our CE credits. And like I said, today we do want to talk about what burnout is, identify who's at risk, what does burnout actually look like, what are those signs and symptoms. But then how do we practice self-care that we can either come out of burnout or decrease just that high level of stress a lot of care partners are living with? And we'll also discuss some community resources that are available that hopefully you can take advantage of if you aren't already. So I'm going to start here with this want ad. And if you might have heard this before, particularly from us, but it's so appropriate and it's such a great way to set it up. So the one ad for a full-time caregiver. You must have unlimited stamina, be energetic, alert and attentive, friendly and caring, totally understanding, and forever patient. Must be willing to always subordinate your own needs to those of the patient and have few, if any, other commitments. Must know how to handle any situation. A background degree is preferred, or in psychology and human relations preferred, plus you need to have basic nursing skills. Have basic knowledge of medications and their interactions, as well as medication side effects. Must be prepared to work for no pay and expect little, if any, appreciation for the above abilities from the patient. I love that because it's so true, particularly at times when we are doing full-time caregiving or care partnering for anybody, but particularly for somebody living with a dementia disorder. And we have here, there's that one ad, but some unspoken rules that care partners have. And these rules can be imposed from others, whether that's a sibling or the patient themselves or anybody in your life. They just impose these rules on you. But they can also be self-imposed, these unspoken rules that we do impose on ourselves. And that can be, you have to be loyal, you have to be perfect, you have to do it all yourself. Don't rock the boat with anybody, particularly the patient or the loved one. You need to meet with everybody's approval, everybody's. You can't be selfish about anything, and you need to do it all perfectly, and you need to have done it yesterday. You need to do it right, and you need to do it now. And hopefully I can see people's heads nodding and shaking and being like, yep, those are those unspoken rules, whether I impose them on myself or other people impose them on me. And I also, what other rules are out there that aren't listed here? Any of those unspoken rules that you have in your life that just aren't up here? Maybe you can throw some of those in the chat and see if anybody identifies with those. This slide right here, this self-assessment, and this is actually taken, I've just copied it from a caregiver self-assessment that we will send out to you as part of the follow-up resources. But really, when we are caregiving for somebody else, most caregivers really are concerned for everybody else's needs, except for their own, or it's so easy to lose sight of your own needs. So I'm going to read these questions off to you, and I just want you to either say it out loud or answer yourself, yes or no to some of these questions, or all these questions. Do you feel unappreciated? Do you feel like your self-worth is determined by how others perceive you? Do you get anxious around conflict? Have you experienced feelings of hopelessness? Do you have problems separating your personal life from your caregiving life? Do you have problems sleeping? Do you often feel used up at the end of the day? Do you feel lonely? Do you feel a loss of privacy and/or personal time? A loss of personal time? Do you have difficulty making your needs known? So do you have difficulty making decisions? And on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not stressed and 10 being extremely stressed, please rate your current level of stress. So currently, where is that level of stress? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being very healthy and 10 being very ill, please rate your current health compared to what it was around this time last year. So there's, just a handful of questions here. And I want to ask you if you answered yes to a majority of those questions, then you might have a higher level of stress. Or even if you have a sense that you're experiencing high stress or that you're experiencing some burnout, guess what? You probably are. You might not need a self-assessment to tell you that. But sometimes it does help to kind of stop and get these questions answered for yourself. And we have this self-assessment here because we encourage caregivers and care partners to fill out this self-assessment frequently, at least every 6 months, because as the journey changes for your loved one, the patient, for yourself, and as how that disease changes, your needs, your stress level, all that stuff is going to change. So it's really helpful to have something kind of tangible to sit back and say, you know what, let me ask myself these questions and be honest about the answers for these. And if I can do this every 6 months, it's going to help me be more aware of where I'm at in my own needs. And you can see, I mean, there were some questions that asked about your physical health, but a lot of them were emotional and mental health. A lot of times we put that, we kind of put that under the rug or ignore it as best we can. So really putting this out there and asking yourself every 6 months. And we're talking about caregiver stress and burnout. So caregiver stress is really defined as an emotional or physical strain of caring for somebody else in need or in need of help. So it's that physical and emotional strain of caregiving for somebody else. 75% of caregivers report they feel very strained emotionally, very strained physically, and or financially. 75% of those are women. And most caregivers often are referred to as the hidden patient. So as we are caregiving for somebody, a lot's going on with us personally, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, but that it doesn't get addressed because the needs of our loved one or the needs of that patient are put in the forefront. Long-term, unmanaged, and ignored stress leads to burnout. And that's what we really want to talk about today is burnout. And stress, like we just talked about, it's overengagement, or it's characterized by you were overengaged. You might have a loss of energy. It does take on a physical toll that you see some more symptoms of that, where burnout is a little bit different. It's more characterized by just disengaged. I'm just not engaged anymore, and I may not care. And I may not care that I'm not engaged, that I don't care. It also results in a loss of motivation. So stress is that loss of energy, maybe exhaustion and fatigue, but now I just have a loss of motivation. And it primarily takes a toll on emotional health, where high stress takes more of a toll on physical health. So stress, high stress, unmanaged, long-term chronic stress leads to burnout. It's that accumulation of unchecked stress over a period of time. You can't have stress without burnout, but you cannot have burnout without stress. So what is burnout? Again, it's that state of emotional exhaustion. There's that physical exhaustion as well, but that emotional caused by that prolonged stress. And really, we're at that point where I'm overwhelmed and I'm unable to meet demands in my life. Demands from my patient or demands from my loved one, other family members, and demands from myself. It's unsustainable. It's when we engage in an unsustainable level of commitment. And that can be for weeks for some people. It can be months. It can be years for others. It's just an unsustainable level of commitment. And again, it's accumulative. It's after weeks, months, relentless responsibility, whether it's work stress, the hassles, and there's few rewards that come from it. And I think that's important to push to highlight, because caregiving, particularly for those that we love dearly, there's a lot of rewards to it. And we want to focus on those rewards, and we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. But when it gets to a point where I'm not feeling those rewards or seeing those rewards as often, then that's another kind of warning sign that I might be at burnout, or I'm about to be at burnout. So just another visual here on what this looks like. So this is called the stress curve, and it kind of helps you gauge where I might be on this stress curve. Because generally what happens is when things change in our life, we start out with plenty of energy. It's helpful energy. It can be, that stress that initially happens can be helpful because it gives us more energy. It gets us take action and to be more responsive to stressors. And, we feel like, okay, we can do this. We got the wind in our sails and we're going to do this. And then as it keeps going and keeps going, we become more tired. We become more irritable. Our performance and those helpful responses from the very beginning are starting to suffer. We're too tired. We're coming up to this fatigue, the top of the curve here. So it's good stress, but we want to keep it in that good stress area. We don't want to tip it over to overload, overwhelmed, bad stress. But this is typically what happens when we don't have any respite, when we don't have any rest or any breaks or any help. We can have that fatigue, exhaustion, and feelings come up of exploitation, feelings of resentment, bitterness, maybe helplessness as well. And then a sense of exhaustion a sense of failure can creep in and show up. And then now we're going on that downhill side of that curve. And this is where we hit distress and burnout. Our body has used up all the energy. It's used up those helpful responses. It's used up anything that we really had. And we're no longer able to cope with the stressor or any additional stressors that might come. Depression, panic, and collapse come in, and burnout will happen. So this is that curve. And as you're looking at this, do you see yourself somewhere on that curve? And is there a way that we can maybe backtrack and get back to where stress is helpful? Where are those helpful responses? How do I get this energy that can help me have good performance and not suffer from burnout? So we're asking ourselves, who is at risk for burnout? Anyone and everyone is at risk for burnout, particularly those who do not take care of themselves. We're talking about care partner, of course, burnout, and we are particularly, if you're a care partner, whether you're professional or personal or both, you're particularly at a higher risk for burnout, especially if you're caregiving for somebody that has a terminal illness like a dementia disorder or a chronic progressive illness. When we are taking care of someone who is progressively getting worse over time and they're experiencing a steady decline, it's really easy for burnout to creep in if we're not practicing self-care and managing this high stress, managing the stressors before it gets to burnout. So briefly, as we're talking about care partners in dementia, and this can be related to anybody really with a chronic terminal illness, but persons with Alzheimer's disease or another dementia, the effects of that disease do not just affect the patient. And you can say this is true for any chronic illness. It doesn't just affect the patient, it affects all those around them that are caring for them and loving them. The disease continues to destroy brain cells, or the illness continues to destroy physical health, or whatever it may be. The patient is increasingly becoming more dependent on their care partners for assistance. And this can be physically, it can be mentally, it can be emotionally, spiritually, financially as well. Simple tasks such as getting dressed or preparing a meal can require a lot of assistance from a care partner, when before we never had to do that. And the patient never had to rely on you to do that either. Dementia itself is not a typical disease model. Care partners for somebody with dementia are a particular burnout because the process of the disease can be pretty long. It's a long process, and it's a long process of decline. Commonly, it's anywhere between 8 to 12 years, the disease process with, when somebody finally gets diagnosed to somebody passes away from it. Here, the next one says it's anywhere from 3 to 20 years. And that really kind of gets the wide range and how individualistic this disease can be. But then there's also feelings of grief and loss. It's not unlike a death in the family, except that, it's not generally a sudden loss. It's spread out over years. And there's multiple losses over those years as the disease progresses and the person declines. And we call those ambiguous grief and anticipatory grief, as we anticipate the next decline, or we anticipate that next loss, and how ambiguous and complex the loss is. We can see that this adds to high stress and burnout. Caregiving and depression, and caregiving and dementia. So according to the Alzheimer's Association, about 80% or more than 80% of dementia caregivers, and this is both professional and families, report that they have a high level of stress. And quite frankly, I would say it's probably more than 80%. Nearly half of those say that they do suffer from depression. And I would bet some money that there's more than half that suffer from depression. And one leading risk factor for developing dementia is being a primary caregiver for somebody with dementia. And this comes from that continuous giving, without a break, without that respite, without that assistance, so somebody can get that self-care. They can take those breaks. So the body starts to lose the reserves that it has. Just a second ago, I talked about, that stress curve, and we have all this energy up front, but then we start to lose that energy. We run out of that gas or that fuel. This is taking it more to a clinical level, whereas the body really does start to lose reserves to take care for itself, or to maintain a level of health for that body, physically, mentally, emotionally as well. So the body starts to lose reserves. And it's not just an energy level to where, I'm going to get, a week of vacation and a break, and I come back and I've got my energy tanks full again. The body starts to lose those, and you might not get the reserve back if we're not careful, if we're not practicing that self-care. So caregiver spouses between the age of 66 and 96 who are experiencing mental and emotional strain have a 68% higher risk of dying than the same age who are not caregivers. So those that are caregivers between that age range, and those who are not, the ones that are caregiver that have are experiencing that high level of mental and emotional health or strain, have a 68% higher risk of dying than those that are not caregiving within that same age group. That's a big percentage. And those are spouses. So children, adult children, about 63% have a higher risk of dying over the course of caregiving for more than 4 years, more than the same age group that they're compared to. Caregiving is not easy. We have to be able to take care of ourselves so we can continue to care for our loved ones. So a few other just statistics where these are scary. It's important for us to hear these and to be very aware of how important managing our health can be, because we don't want to get to this burnout level, because it is very detrimental. It can be very, very serious. So 41% of women caregivers and 54% of men caregivers are coping by using alcohol. 51% of caregivers admit to overusing prescription medication. 16% start to smoke again, even if they started or stopped a long time ago, or stopped off of nicotine some years off. And then 72% are overweight. Are y'all using any of those as coping skills? Or is there something else that's not on there that maybe you're using? Some emotions of care partners. And we're going to read these emotions to you and talk about them. And hopefully we're validating some of the emotions that you might be having as well. I know personally, when I have my emotions validated or realize that I'm not the only person that has these thoughts and feelings and emotions, it kind of gives me a sense of relief. And it's like, it's okay to have these feelings. It's okay. So the resentment about role reversal, whether it's from child to parent, that's a typical one. Especially if I'm taking care of a parent, now those roles are reversed. I've heard a lot of spouse caregivers say it's now like I am taking care of a child again, particularly with somebody with dementia. And these adjustment of these role reversals takes time. It takes time for both parties to adjust to these role reversals. For spouses of persons caregiving for somebody with dementia, called the hidden widowhood, I believe. So it's feeling like a widow, even though my spouse is still alive. Being overwhelmed by too much responsibility and feeling underappreciated or unappreciated if others are not assisting with the care. So I can be unappreciated or underappreciated, not really, those people around me or my loved one is not really appreciating how much I'm really doing, how much I've really taken on. And then isolation, this feeling nobody understands, nobody has an idea how I'm feeling or how much responsibility I've taken on. And caregiving for their person interferes with normal social life of that care partner. So a normal life has kind of maybe halted or has been arrested, and I haven't been able to go on with that normal life or those normal activities and normal, relationships that I've had because I'm taking on this role of caregiver, and how isolating that can really be. Professional caregivers that intimately care for older adults generally turn off their own needs. I'm here, this is my job, this is what I want to do. I love, they grow their own bonds and their own connections, and they turn off their own needs where they may not even recognize that they have needs. Adult children are often juggling multiple responsibilities, maybe multiple caregiving roles. They have their spouse, they have their children, and they have their careers, and now they have their parents or aunts or uncles or grandparents. And an adult child may not be experienced in caregiving, and they feel inadequate to care for somebody so intimately, with so many more physical needs or emotional, mental needs as well. Particularly, children aren't providing emotional, mental care for a parent a lot of the time. So that's a feel inadequate about being able to do that. And then there can be some cynicism and distrust of others' motives. And primary care partners feel guilty about not doing enough. Have you ever said that to yourself? I'm just not doing enough. Even though your day might be completely full of everything that you're doing for other people, then we still have that feelings of guilt. Out of town, family members or friends may feel guilty about not being able to help from a distance. And when they do come and visit, they may interfere with that plan of care. They may not be as helpful as they hope to be, right? It is not usual or unusual for the caregiver to suffer from not only depression, but from other medical problems as well. Commonly we do see high blood pressure, IBS, or other gastro issues, or any other injuries due to caregiving. My back hurts, or they put off surgery that they would have had anyway, so it gets worse. Knee surgery, you name it, they just keep pushing that off, so their injuries get worse. And then anxiety over a loved one's disease, their own children, the other parent, their job, their finances. And then there's criticism from other family members, friends, those who may not be present all the time and who may not really understand the disease, the extent of the decline, understand the responsibilities you may have taken on. Because of infrequent visits, just because they really don't understand. This is the first time they've dealt with it as well. But you can have that criticism, or like what I like to call it is that unsolicited advice we did not ask for. And here again, some more emotions that might come up with caregiving, or those unspoken roles. So I talked about some unspoken rules, but there might be unspoken roles in caregiving or care partnering. And these are roles that we just tend to play in life anyway. They, depending on what group we're around or what community we're in, we assume roles. And this can identify us and our personalities. It also drives our behavior, and it drives our choices and our decisions that we make. Some of these roles we might have started playing when we were little kids, and we've just grown with them, particularly in family units. And sometimes these roles can be inflexible, and depending on the family, they can be, you are in this box, and that's what you are. This is you in this box. And sometimes these roles can increase feelings of stress and help lead to more burnout. So do you identify with any of these roles? Are you Miss or Mrs. Perfect? Miss or Mr. Perfect? Are you the fixer? Are you the doer? Are you the strong one? The nurturer? Are you the money? Are you the punching bag? Are you the unreliable one? What other roles are there that maybe you play? And maybe you play a handful of those, maybe in the same family unit, or you play a handful of those just in different areas of your life. What other roles that do you play that may not be up there? And then how many other roles do you play? And these are important to identify. You're talking about the feelings, identifying risk for burnout. Who's at risk for burnout? What does it look like? Because I want to be able to identify this in myself. What are these warning signs of caregiver burnout? So I have up here emotional warning signs and physical warning signs. We've talked a lot about those emotions, that resentment, criticism that we might get, the feelings of depression, the isolation. We talked about those roles. I always feel like I have to be the strong one. I can't cry, I can't break down. So those are all emotional warning signs that we put on ourselves and that others put on us as well. But there can also be anger, anxiety, denial, just exhaustion, emotional fatigue, as well as physical fatigue, right? Just that loss of interest in activities. I don't remember the last time, I went and did anything nice for myself, bought myself a new shirt or got my hair cut, things like that. Physically, it really affects us with insomnia, difficulty concentrating. I started this task and I just can't finish it. I just can't concentrate, or I get my attention caught over here and I forget to come back to this task. And maybe I get reoccurring headaches, muscle tension is up, fatigue, that IBS or gastrointestinal problems. Maybe you're starting to see some short-term memory issues for yourself. Repeating your actions, again, self-neglect, poor habits. And this can be eating habits or coping habits. Maybe you started drinking a little bit more, or using those prescription medications a little bit more, sleeping more. All of these are signs of burnout. And the emotions that we have, those roles that we play, or those rules, those unspoken rules that can be imposed on us. It's important for us to identify these and not identify them in a negative way, like, yep, that's me, I'm a horrible person, I shouldn't have let myself get to that. But we want to use these as a positive. You know what? I understand what my warning signs are. I understand when people are putting excess demands on me. I can see what that looks like. And I want to use these as red flags to be like, hey, okay, I've noticed these warning signs about me. My stomach's really bothering me. I'm starting to rely more on an extra glass of wine at night to help me get through or to help me get to sleep. And I notice that I'm just really angry about everything all the time. These are my warning signs. And I'm glad I have these warning signs and I know what they are for myself, because now I know I really got to start practicing self-care. Because what I don't want to do is get to that burnout, to where I don't have motivation, I'm completely disengaged. I want to stay engaged because I'm a caregiver, a care partner for a reason, right? I want to provide high quality of life to my loved one. I want to give them what they want, what they need, is they're not able to provide that for themselves anymore. But the only reason or the only way I can do that is to make sure I'm taking care of myself. I have to keep those energy levels, those tanks full. I can't run out, I can't run on fumes, I can't give what I don't have. So I got to keep those energy tanks full so I can provide the best care for my loved one. So people who avoid or who are able to bounce back from high stress and from burnout. So these are people that avoid it, or they're able to bounce back quicker and easier from burnout. They have support and care systems. We're going to talk about how to build your own team, get your own support system here, that they're connected, they're committed, and they have shared values with these people in their care net, their care team. They have positive and healthy relationships and bonds. They have clear and they have consistent boundaries. So they know what their limits are. They know what they need to say no to and what they can say yes to, and they're consistent about those boundaries. They have positive life skills, even though they may not use them all the time. They still have those positive life skills, or they know how to get back on track as they need to. And they expect success. And I really like this. Healthy people have a healthy perspective on what success is and how to achieve it. So there's a perspective on what is real success. What do I consider successful that's practical and attainable? And how do I achieve it? So they expect that. They understand what it is and they expect that they're going to attain it. They're self-organized. They have good communication skills and they have good self-reflection skills and they have resources. So we're going to cover all of those here in the next several minutes. Talked about those warning signs. We just talked a lot about those. Emotional, physical, what are those roles, unspoken rules. Another way to be aware of when your warning signs or when your stress level is creeping up to where it's going to either get over the side of that curve or you're about to reach burnout is to be aware, know what your warning signs are, of course. We want to be preventative and not reactive. But really listen closely to your friends and your family, those that you trust, those people that need to be a part of your care net. They're committed to you and to your role as a caregiver. Listen to them and what they have to say. So has anybody said anything about your behavior or your demeanor? Or I mean, it might even be something like, man, you sure do look tired today. Or you sure been looking tired a lot. You know, thank you. The matter could have maybe said that a little bit better, but I really want to listen to what my friends and family around me are saying because they're seeing it from a different perspective. And they might have a clearer picture on what's really, or a clearer view on what's really going on. So when I hear those things, I don't want to immediately become defensive. I want to be like, gosh, yeah, I haven't been sleeping very well, honestly. And then really start to do some of that self-reflection. The first step into resolving burnout or bouncing back from burnout is to realize that you're suffering from it and not to ignore it or to justify it or make excuses for it, but to realize, yeah, you're right. And being open to what other people have to say. No one person can do everything. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. And that might be an affirmation you might be telling yourself every day. I can do anything, but I can't do everything. So some other best care or best self-care tips. Make your own health a priority. You're making your loved one's health a priority and probably a lot of other people around you. You're putting their needs before yours. You have to put yourself and your needs as a priority as well. I'm not saying don't take care of them, but you have to make sure that you're up there on that priority list. And know your limits. We're going to talk about how to ask for help and how to accept help and how to support that team and get that support early on. And we have to be organized. We have to prioritize and establish a routine. I know that what caregivers are really good at are prioritizing the stuff during the day. You are good at prioritizing what needs to get done. So what you need to do, and what I really encourage everybody to do, is while you are prioritizing what needs to get done in this day, you have to put yourself at the top of that list. Whether you feel like you need a break or not, you've got to schedule personal time. And I really say, please at least give yourself 10 minutes if you can't give yourself 30 minutes to an hour. Schedule that personal time, organize it, make sure you put it in the day where you know it's going to get done, and you stick to that schedule. And you guard that time carefully. You have managed to set it aside, so you guard it carefully. You make sure there aren't interruptions, that people can't get to you, or it's not down on the list where it's easily gets shuffled to the next day. It's got to be prioritized. It really is a non-negotiable if you don't want to hit burnout. And remember all those statistics about this caregiver stats. We don't want you to be a part of those stats. So building your team is going to be very, very important. And to be a successful care partner, really looking at it like your caregiving responsibility and role as an organization or as a company, and you are the president and CEO of this caregiving organization. So it is, put your name over there. This is Jamie Caregiving Incorporated. And if I think about this, if I think about any company or organization, there's not one person doing everything. It would be impossible. Here at the West Center, there's not, our president and CEO, she is not doing everything. What she has done and what our board has done is very strategically hired people that are great at what they do to be able to help the organization be successful and grow and thrive. So I want to think about this in that regards as a caregiver. I need to get people as part of my team that are good at what they do, what I get them on for, because it may be I can get somebody to help me with the legal financial paperwork here, and then I have somebody over here to help with transportation back to doctor's appointments and grocery stores and whatnot, all the way up to home health or to hospice, or where's my doctor and my pharmacist fit into this? Where is that team? Where is that one person I can talk to at any time of the day? This is part of my team. And I have them strategically in there because I have them there because I know I can't do this alone. And they're here to help me and my loved one in this caregiving be successful and thrive and maintain a high quality of life. So what does that look like? One way to do that is to start to let go of some of the small stuff, set priorities. And I've learned this from some caregivers, particularly if we have somebody coming into the home. And this can be a neighbor, it can be a close friend, it can be a cousin, it can be somebody that you pay. But start to give up some of that small stuff, particularly early on. It's going to be easier for you and your loved one to accept help later in the disease process if you've already accepted earlier on, because you're used to it. And you're going to start needing it and realize how important it is to have this in here. So let somebody come in and help getting breakfast ready. Yeah, you can do that right now, but let them come in and do that while you go do something else. Because eventually there might come a time where you can't do it all. But I've already got this person in place. They're doing the breakfast and they're helping mom get out of bed and get dressed while I'm over here doing this. And you can even say, I can be with mom most of the day. And that's okay where I'm at right now. I can be with her most of the day, but I really do need 2 or 3 hours where I can get my work done, uninterrupted hours. But the rest of it I got. But knowing that as the disease progresses and changes, and as your needs change as well, you'll have to start building that team and plugging people in. And the earlier you start getting that help and accepting it, the easier it's going to be for both you and your loved one. And getting help from friends and family, be honest about what your needs are, what your strengths are, where you're going to need help, where your weaknesses are, and just better ways to ask for help, particularly from those that we're not paying, right? And I honestly believe that most people really want to help. They just don't know how. So it might be that sibling that comes from out of town every month or every so often. They come in and they want to help while they're here. They don't want to interfere, but we might have to guide them on what's that best way to help. Or that friend from church really wants to help. Well, let me help them help me, right? And it's giving them the reward to help, and you're getting that actual assistance. So it's being specific. Set clear times, set clear roles, activities that you want to do, and talk with them beforehand about what to expect, particularly if you want them to come maybe sit with your loved one. We can always use that as help, right? I want you to come and just spend a couple of hours with my dad. Now, here's what to expect. Here's what his abilities are. You might want to do a puzzle or you might want to go for a walk. It's okay not to have a long, drawn-out conversation. He may not be able to do that, but he can do these things. And he enjoys this. If you can do that for 2 hours, that would be great. And if you could come on Monday from 10 to 12, that's the time I need you. So it's specific. And that person, you've given that person the tools to actually come in and, yes, I can do that. That's easy. And you're making that ask strong. Instead of being kind of wishy-washy, yeah, you can come in and he just likes to, have somebody with them sitting there and you can come anytime you want, really, whatever's going to be best for you. I know you're busy. Well, they may not show up at all, or they come for 30 minutes and they talk to you instead of talking to your loved one. So be specific and make strong asks. And what we don't want to do is ask someone to come over for help and be a spectator. Just sit there and watch them help, whatever it is they're doing. And it might be that they're helping you just clean up around the house. And we don't want to be a spectator or looking over their shoulder. They come here to do a certain thing, so we need to go and get stuff done that we need to get done, or we need to go take a nap, or we just need to go drive around the block, and let them do what they set out to do. Have a list ready when people ask you, hey, how can I help you this week? Please let me know how I can help you. Instead of saying, great, yeah, I'll let you know. Hey, you know what would be great is if you could do these 5 things, one of these 5 things, and give it to them. Or I really need help with getting somebody to mow that lawn, and I need some help looking at, day programs in the area. Do you think you could help me with that this weekend? Because I really could use some help on Wednesday afternoon. Kind of hard to say no to that. Hard to say no to that. And it helps them help you. Consider their interest. If you know it's somebody that really hates to run errands and be out in traffic all the time, then don't ask them to go run errands for you. But you know they really like to cook. Maybe you can ask them, can you do a couple of meals for me that I can freeze and heat up later on as the month goes on? They'd be happy to do that. And consider timing. And it's okay if you get a hesitation from somebody not to take it personally, because it could very well be, I just don't know what's going on in their life. Maybe they had a big deadline at work, or they have some family coming in that they're getting ready for. It's not a personal rejection. Just try again and ask later. And don't ask the same person repeatedly. There is going to be that 1 or 2 person that you can go to all the time, which is great, and that's why they're there. But we also want to rotate in some other people. And that's why we have that team we want to rely on. So there's a lot of people there that we can pull from. And a change in our perspective. And this really is our perspective in our life, but our perspective as our caregiving role and responsibilities. When we change our thoughts, we change how we feel, and we change our actions. So they're just saying you are what you think. And this is scientifically proven. You are what you think you are. The thoughts that we tell ourselves will start to influence our emotions and our beliefs, and our emotions and beliefs influence our decisions and our behaviors and our choices. So if I'm telling myself over and over again that I'm a horrible caregiver and I'm not getting good at this, and this is just miserable, my loved one doesn't like me and I just cannot get anything right, then I'm really going to start to believe that about myself and really think, yep, I'm horrible. I'm not going to get anything right. I'm just kind of a worthless person. What's the point? And that's going to influence how, if I feel that about myself, it's going to influence how I behave and how I treat myself and how I treat my loved one. So what does it matter if we don't go on that outing? I'm not going to get it right anyway. It's just going to blow up in my face. They're going to be mad at me anyway, so I'm just not going to do it. But instead, if I tell myself, you know what, this is hard. I'm going to be realistic about it, but I'm learning every day and I'm getting better every day. There's some empowerment in just saying those words to yourself. And that's going to change what you believe about yourself. And it's going to change those feelings. You know what? Yeah, I can do this. I did good last time. I can do this. And we're going to have a good time. I'm going to expect success. And that's going to change how I treat myself and how I treat my loved one and the decisions I make and the actions. You know what? We may not do a big outing, but we're going to do a little outing to the mall when the hours are off. There's not as many people there, and we're going to have a good time. And I'm going to smile, and we're going to make jokes, and we're going to laugh. And it just changes everything. And it changes not only your perspective, but it changes your behavior. And it's going to change the quality of life for your loved one. It all starts in your head. When we are optimistic and anticipate successful encounters, know that we expect success, you transmit a positive attitude, and people usually respond in the same way. If you're pessimistic and expect the worst, your attitude is often negative, and people may respond in the same way, but they're also going to start to avoid you. So you can choose which one you want to be. Both of them take work, quite honestly. Again, your attitudes and your feelings and emotions result from your thoughts, those messages that you give yourself. So check your attitudes, check those feelings and emotions. What have been your behaviors recently? That can help be a gauge on what we're really feeling and thinking. And it can also be if I surround myself every day with positives, with affirmations, and this is I'm surrounding myself in the environment with it. I'm seeing positive quotes come across my screen, or I'm listening to good music. I'm watching shows that have positive messages, and I'm reading good books, and I'm telling myself that good stuff. What am I feeding myself? essentially will help me be better about that. And it's an intention. Intentionally shift your perceptions to being open to a different way of thinking. And just say, I refuse to become angry or distraught about this. I refuse that. I'm going to think of it this way instead. We have the power to change our thoughts and the power to control our thoughts and emotions. But it does take daily effort. Like I said, it takes both. It takes work to be both optimistic and pessimistic. But knowing that a negative mind will never give you a positive life. So how we become more positive and help change our perception is daily reflect on your strengths, reflect on your accomplishments, reflect on those miracles that happen, on the good things that happen every day. And what we want you to do is either write it down, say it out loud, or tell somebody else, because it gets into your subconscious quicker than just thinking it. And knowing that we got to do it daily to help to truly change our thought pattern. And I encourage you just to try for a week. Maybe you start today and you go till next Tuesday. Keep a track record, write it down in a journal of all your positives every day for that week. And then go back. So at night, every night before you go to sleep, write down all the positives for the day. What happened, positive interactions, positive relationships, positive things you thought, positive things you did or didn't do, right? Write them down. And then next week, do that every day for 7 days. And then that seventh day, go back and read all those things. And what is this? And it's a record of what you've done. These are what your accomplishments are. These are your strengths. And you have it written down on paper. And how great that's going to be for your psyche, but also helping changing those perspectives. And every time you or someone does something positive, praise yourself for it or praise that person for it. This behavior starts to increase positive behavior. So some other things that we can do to practice self-care. 2 things. You want to find enjoyable activities to do with your loved one. We don't want it to always be about task care or things that have to get done. You know, when we think about our day, just ask yourself, what are the important things about you and what's important to you every day? The most important things for you, if I say, what's the 3 most important things for you to do each day that you love doing? I would doubt any of y'all would say, it's taking a shower, it's toileting, it's brushing my teeth. I doubt any of y'all say that. I'm sure some of you might say, hey, it's cooking a really nice meal. It's reading that book, that devotional. It's getting out for a walk in nature. It's that cup of coffee. It's listening to the birds. Y'all are saying those things, not the self-care tasks that we've got to do. So we want to find these enjoyable activities to do with our loved ones. So that might be go for a walk, look at those birds, listen to the music. Look at photos, maybe you dance a little bit, do some gardening, organize tools, whatever it may be. There's a million things that you can do that are enjoyable for you to do with your loved one. And that's very, very important for building trust and strengthening that relationship you have with your loved one, even as the roles may have changed a little bit. But it's also important to do activities that you can do separately. Enjoyable activities that you can do separately. So your loved one has an activity that they're doing on their own that are said that they enjoy, and it's promoting their independence and it's promoting a sense of contribution and purpose and normalization for them. They've been doing activities separately most of their life, right? So we want to make sure that they're set up. But also for you, it's an enjoyable activity that you're doing. It's a break away from your loved one. It's a break away from the disease. I don't want to say I've got to take a break from my loved one, but you do need to take a break from the disease. Excuse me. So taking a break from the disease and really making sure that you're connected to your outside life or that life outside of caregiving. You have a tether to that. It's easy to just be a care partner, to get wrapped up in that role because it can be all consuming. But having this separate activity can separate me from the disease, but it can also keep me tethered to my outside life, that socialization, those normal lives that maybe I'm not as involved in right now, but I'm still tethered to it. And it's important to do that and get that break from the disease. And also reflecting on a spiritual renewal and focusing on your own efforts. So this helps kind of go into how we change our perspective about our role. But knowing that the best care in the world will not change the outcome of dementia or another chronic illness or change the outcome of getting older. We cannot control the outcome. What we can control is what we're doing in the meantime, our reaction and responses to the disease and the outcome of it. So our frustrations about being powerless and helpless can contribute to burnout. So rather than dwelling on the powerlessness and maybe that helplessness that we can have, because there is not a cure or it is a progressive illness that's just going to get worse over time, we want to draw strength and focus on what we can do, what we are able to do right now. And we are able to facilitate a great life for those living with dementia, no matter what stage of the disease they're in. We can facilitate a great life for those living with a chronic illness, no matter what stage they're in that illness. We can provide dignity, care, and love. So we need to stay centered in the positive aspects of care partnering. A person too busy to take care of one's own health is like a mechanic too busy to take care of one's own tools. A mechanic that has tools that aren't working can't be a mechanic. So a person that can't take care of their own health can't be a care partner. So no one can do your listening or understanding for you. You must support and nurture yourself. Again, that goes down to what are my warning signs? What's my body telling me? What are my emotions telling me? And be proactive, but knowing how to respond when something's not right. And when something's not right physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So one of the best things you can do, and everybody can start doing this right now, is to learn the art of deep abdominal breathing. Deep breathing is the basis of all self-management techniques. If I can learn to do abdominal deep breathing, that's going to give me a foundation for managing my stress and coping better and responding better to a stressful situation or just to stress overall. So abdominal breathing is breathing with your diaphragm and not your chest. Chest breathing is more shallow, but this abdominal breathing, so you got to push your stomach out and use your stomach to breathe in and use your stomach to push all that air out of you. It automatically lowers your blood pressure. It stops a cortisol dump. When we are having to stop and focus on our deep breathing, it stops a cortisol release into our bloodstream. Because when we have a stressful event or a stressor happens, cortisol is released into our bloodstream. And for a minute, that can be good because it gives us some energy and it heightens our senses and our awareness and we can think quicker. But a lot of the times when we're in long-term chronic stress, what we need to do is to be able to take a few deep breaths. Because it stops that cortisol dump into our system and we are able to think clearer, problem solve better, particularly in an acute or a more crisis setting or situation, for lack of a better word. And I can create a sense of calm and be like, and it gives me a second to think, okay, how am I going to respond? And how am I going to respond well right now? The more you practice this abdominal breathing, and there's a couple of exercises here that you'll get, obviously in the follow-up email, the more you practice doing this when you're in high stress situations or just you're going throughout your day, the more it's going to become a natural part of who you are. So when a stressor happens, you do that deep breathing instead of oh my gosh, it's that natural response. But we have to be able to practice it. We have to be intentional about being disciplined about doing it all the time. So this is a foundation to self-care and understanding those warning signs and what I do. The next thing you can do to nurture your body is exercise. And when I say exercise, yes, swim, walk, dance, garden, yoga, stretching. But a lot of it's just also staying in movement more throughout the day. You can sit to stand, you can do chair stretches, chair yoga, walk, anything. And it's all just moving, whether you're sitting doing movement or you're just up moving a little bit more often throughout the day. That exercise and movement is crucial. It's your brain's best friend, for one thing. And it also helps the entire body release some of that stress out of its system, because it can metabolize the stress a little bit better when we're exercising it. We want to eat nutritiously. There's a plant-based diet. I'm going to talk more about that here in a second. And get rest. And this is quality sleep. And then there's restorative downtime. So I want downtime to be restorative, and I'm practicing activities that are restorative. But there's also quality sleep that I need to focus on too. And that might mean I need to get somebody in the home at night that I can actually sleep and be okay, because somebody's watching my loved one. I don't have to sleep with one eye open or one ear open, right? Drink more water. Just please add just a couple of more glasses of water in your day. It's going to help with any gastrointestinal issues that you have. Just helps keep you hydrated. It helps metabolize food, but also using water as a therapy. Running your hands through water. What's that temperature of water? Maybe putting it over your face. One of the things that comforts me a lot is drinking hot tea. Even though it might be hot outside, I just love the temperature of the hot tea and the smell that comes from it. There's a whole sensory thing that comes to it, but it's also nutritious. Those green teas and those flavored teas that come in, it's hot. And then maybe watching your caffeine intake. Have you increased caffeine? And how can we kind of back that off a little bit too? And you can do that by adding more water. And staying up to date on your own preventative health measures. Are you seeing the doctor regularly? Are you doing that health maintenance that you should be doing, instead of just pushing it off to next year, or I really don't feel like I need it right now anyway? We need to keep that preventative maintenance up. And I love this. You want to make your body a good home to live in. Just like you make your home a good home to live in, and the work you put into that, as far as decorating it and maintaining it and keeping it clean, we got to do that for our body too. It's the only one you're going to get. So let's keep it clean and healthy, and maintain it well, and be grateful for it. So here, just quickly, I'm going to go through what they say a little bit more about stress and nutrition. So this Dr. Berzin says we need to learn how to use food to lower the inflammatory stress in the body. A typical response today is to reward our stressed out systems, our stressed out nervous systems with sugar and fat. And this can be a learned behavior, and it's reinforced by the prevalence of convenient choices that might be nutrient poor and calorie dense. But what we need to do is teach people, but also learn which types of food to eat that can hydrate our bodies, lower oxidative stress, and lower inflammation, and give our cells more energy. So we're not having to rely on the caffeine for that energy. Our bodies just naturally have it. So this is a style of eating that she does in her practice, but it's a diet in high greens, those dark leafy greens, lean proteins, healthy fats, low in sugar, processed carbs, and chemically preserved foods. And there is the MIND diet. This diet's been shown to reduce your risk for Alzheimer's and dementia, but it also is a heart healthy diet, and it follows the same, rules or criteria that was just presented in that first slide. And it's easy to follow. So really you have these 10 main healthy food groups that you want to incorporate in your diet every day, and these 5 unhealthy food groups to really limit or get rid of altogether. So nurturing your soul, because physically we know what we need to do to nurture our body physically for self-care, but nurturing our soul. Spiritual practices increase our clarity and our focus. It increases our steadiness and our grounding. They can develop and elevate our mood and our perspectives. Spiritual practices or faith help people alleviate stress, strength, and inspiration. And what this looks like is it can be, You counsel with a spiritual leader. You meet with them regularly. You have a prayer partner. You read devotionals, meditate. You might pray throughout the day or do affirmations throughout the day. You do a Bible study or a spiritual study. You contemplate beauty in nature. I think nature itself can be spiritual. If you connect with nature, that can be spiritual. You're journaling. You relax and just let your soul be at peace. Doing this, and also it helps you be part of a community a lot of the time when we practice spiritual aspects. It's a community setting that we do. So you have that community connection, you have that support from a trusted community with shared interests. And you can also use art to nurture your soul. Really all you need is 20 minutes. And there's been a lot of studies done about how art nurtures our soul and it nurtures our minds as well. But this can be anywhere from you're doing some sculpture to your coloring for about 20 minutes. There's some tips on how to do that here. I won't get into it because of time, but please know that this is a form of how to de-stress, but how to nurture your soul and your mind. And nurturing your heart. We want to be able to tell our story to someone. And this can be, you have that one person that you trust and you go to all the time, no matter what time it is, and you can say anything you want to say. And they're there just to listen and not judge. And there's a relief in that. There's a relief just to be able to share your thoughts and feelings. Or it might be that I've heard somebody else share and now, you know what, I feel the same way and I'm validated. Thank you. You can get that by talking to a professional or talking through support groups. And there's so many support groups in the area. It can be through journaling. It can be through reading poetry, again, using art to do this. Gardening can do this, listening to music, laughing and crying, keeping a sense of humor is a great way to nurture your heart and soul and mind and physical body too. Using aromatherapy and looking at photographs. What do you surround yourself with? What you talked about surrounding, how you feed yourself, what do you put in your environment that's positive and keeps you connected. It can be photos of past vacations or just funny things that you see or just pretty art that you really like behind you. And using music, again, music can nurture your mind and your soul and your heart, but emotions and memories are really closely related to music. So music can influence our emotions and influence how we feel and our behaviors. So giving yourself dedicated time to use music as a self-care technique, at least half an hour. And if you're going to give yourself this dedicated time, you want to have a space that's uninterruptible. It's a comfortable space, and you get this music that helps you relax. It helps you change your mindset, and it's music that you find relaxing, and music that you find peaceful or soothing. And you can also just have it on in the background if you want to help create a relaxing atmosphere. And it can be used as in the moment de-stress, but it also can be preventable or used as preventative treatment, really. Even when you don't have stressful situations, you have that on, you've already at a lower level of stress and you're more calmed perspective. And then nurturing your mind, self-care and nurturing your mind, continuing education. And I think would be preaching to the choir because y'all are here continuing education now, learning more about the disease, how to care for yourself. But this is reading books, attending other programs, subscribing to journals and magazines, ones that are fun and that you like and ones that might be educational too. Question things, try and ask questions from different perspectives, or talk to people that have different thoughts than you do or different perspectives, and really kind of talk in a non-judgmental or safe space about what do you think about this and why do you think that, and discuss certain things. Meditation is a great way to do this. Imagery, and this is using your mind's eye to go on a vacation, if you will. You take your mind's eye somewhere else. And asking yourself, what are you doing right now to nurture your mind? And mindfulness, just briefly about mindfulness, because you can use mindfulness for self-care, mind, body, spirit, soul, heart. But it's an ability to be fully present, aware of what you're at and what you're doing, and not overly reactive to what's going on around you. So it's, everybody has the ability to do this. It's something we just have to hone and focus on. But it's really being in your space and just feeling, where am I right now? What am I feeling? What am I doing? There might be a door slam, but I'm not going to respond to that. I'm just here. We kind of lose touch with our bodies, we do lose touch with our bodies, and we become obsessed with thoughts and what just happened. What am I going to do next? And what if this? And what if that? And why did I do it that way? We fret about the past and the future. But if we can just be in the moment, in this present right now, and what's going on right now, and this really helps us understand and identify what our warning signs are. Physical warning signs, what, my stomach is kind of bothering me, and my emotions have been this, but I have to be able to do it in the present. So not worried about the past and not worried about the future. I'm going to just focus on the present for right now for this next 5 minutes or this next 10 minutes. And you really can get a lot out of that. And it helps change the chemicals in our brain and our stress responses and a lot of stuff. There's more information there on that slide. And there's a lot of information if you just research about mindfulness and the benefits and how to really do it. So some community resources. Of course, there is the West Center here, and we do education for care partners, professional and family care partners. Our focus is persons with dementia and dementia care. Of course, we partner with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging and Marty, and there's their website, and they have a whole host of benefits and services and resources, from nutrition to benefits counseling, to respite, and opportunities you can use for respite, to case management that you can really take advantage of, and I encourage you to do that. There's 211 that you can call and just ask for information. Here's my situation, here's what I'm looking for, and they kind of have like the lexicon of all the resources out there. Other Texas area agencies on aging where you may be, or other state area agencies on aging where you may be. And of course, the Alzheimer's Association, and they have chapters all over the nation that you can call and access. But they also have that helpline. It's a 24-hour helpline. You can call any day or any time, 24 hours, and somebody will always pick up and help you, no matter what your question is. And it can be anywhere from, I'm in a crisis right now, I don't know what to do with my loved one, all the way up to, hey, I have a question about how to access resources in my community. And you can be a family or you can be a professional. We do have Dementia Friendly Fort Worth here in our city, and Dementia Friendly North Texas as well, that are through, and they're going around and helping our organization and our city in the North Texas region become dementia friendly through a variety of programs. And UNT Health Science Center here at Fort Worth has its own geriatric clinic and education as well. This is not an exhaustive list of resources here, but it's a good start for sure, especially if you're looking about how am I going to start practicing self-care and how I'm going to build that team that I'm going to need to build. So I've put on here, just to kind of go back, here are some real rules for care partners, not those unspoken rules that are imposed on us, but some real rules that I think you really need to start practicing. And this is to practice self-care daily. It's not selfish. It's necessary. Build your support team. You cannot do it all. You cannot do it all very well either. All right, or at least you can't do it without a price. Ask for and accept help. Use the resources that we just talked about. Keep a sense of humor. Focus on the positive. Practice that self-compassion. We give a lot of grace to those around us and our loved ones. We need to give grace to ourselves. And be an advocate for yourself and for your loved one. This is not an exhaustive list of those rules either. And I invite you to add rules that you have for yourself to chat, to share with everybody else. But those are the real rules that we need to follow. And caregiver burnout is well documented and is very serious. We read those stats about how many people might pass away before their time or become seriously ill themselves. It is important to identify what your stresses are, where you are on that stress curve, and what's really affecting your life, to make necessary changes to decrease the stress or get that help or change your perspective on things. And finding support from a group, a family, or friends is critical to help you be able to care for your loved one and care for them well. Again, that is our information about the James L. West Center that you have. And I am going to stop talking and let Marty take over and answer any questions that you may have. Marty, you're on mute. Oh no, he's still on mute.
Once again, I was trying to get my headphones to work and they wouldn't work. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. And
Yeah,
I can't hear you, so I gotta figure out how to. I'm having some rough technical difficulties here, so let me see if I can get my sound on this computer. Golly. Well, I'm going to ask you to read the question then, and try to answer it in the Q&A if you could.
Yes. Okay, so what to do about a caregiver who is so consumed with their experience that they don't even want to know what is happening in a care partner's life that impacts ability to support them? This is huge. Their situation is the hub of the universe, and everyone is to orbit around their crisis. Withdrawal is my only possible response. That is I don't think there's a black or white, answer to that question, but unless somebody has a question or an answer or what they've done. But I will say, unless somebody is in danger or at risk of hurting themselves or hurting somebody else, it is okay to say that your crisis is not my crisis. There might be a time where we might need to step in if there's abuse or there is somebody at risk. But your crisis is not my crisis. And that's okay to say. And it's okay to feel that way, and it's okay to know that. There might come a point where so I always, education is so we'll educate them about this, educate them about that. But if they're not going to hear it and they don't want to know what is happening or understand it, it might be, and I've had some families kind of come to this agreement where, families like, mom won't let me take care of dad, and it's all about her and her issues, and dad's the ones that's suffering, and it can come down to, well, until we're able to intervene, and that might be at a crisis or somebody else needs to come into the home to help them, then that might be the other thing. And we might have to be on the outskirts of helping the best way that we can and support them that we can in a healthy manner, right? In a healthy way to be able to do that. I hope that answers the question, or at least kind of gives you some food for thought. If it doesn't, please let me know.
Everything else, just so you know, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think you're getting feedback. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I'm having one problem after the other with technology.
Yeah.
The issue is that I just wanted to let you know that there is everything in the comments is pretty much comments. I didn't think there was any questions. I don't think there were any questions in the chat. Okay. Is my point. I did paste the link in the. There was a break in the link, and I certainly apologize. I don't know why it worked the first time I tried it, but there was an issue with it that I fixed, and then I posted it. The new one should work, but I'll also be sending that link out with the follow-up email that will also have the CEU information as well.
Okay.
Do you want to go over the CEU information again, if you would?
Yes, so we will, or Marty will send out that follow-up email with some resources, including the slides, the link in that caregiver self-assessment I talked about at the very beginning. I'll make sure he sends that, gets that information too. But then also a link to the program evaluation. You do need to complete the evaluation to get your CE credit. The evaluation will be open until the end of the day on Friday, September the 24th. When the evaluation closes, then if you will give us about 10 to 15 days to turn around and get all those certificates back to you. You will receive an email with your CE certificate within that time frame. If you don't receive anything by October the 10th, please let us know, let Marty know, or you can let me know, and we'll make sure and get you what you need. But until then, if you'll just please give us that time to get these certificates turned out to you all, that'd be great. So.
Very good. And just so you know, I'm the one who really wants to make a point about giving us enough time, just because we're so grateful to the James L. West Center for doing the complimentary CEUs. They are very time consuming. It is much easier and faster if you can wait till everybody gets their surveys in and then do them all at one time. But it is time consuming, and we've got a lot of other things on our plate. So please, if you give them the courtesy, it just becomes so much more difficult if you've got a whole bunch of people sending you emails asking questions about where's my CEUs. And I do understand that from time to time we do miss one or two, and we don't mean to. But if you could give us till the 10th of October before you ask about it, you should have it by then. We'd be very appreciative. The other thing is we want to talk about next month's, and I apologize, I've had to shut my sound off, Jamie, so if you're trying to say something, you might have to wave to me. I apologize to you all for the technical difficulties today. I just haven't been able to get the sound, for some reason my headset isn't working right, and I don't know why. But so the next month, we're going to shift from an hour and a half to an hour program on the second week of next month, the second Tuesday. We're going to do one on caregiver work-life balance. And so I just want to make sure that we make the point. So instead of it being an hour and a half program, it will be an hour program. I also want to let you know that that we've been doing a lot of these. And a big reason we've been doing a lot of these is because we got a fairly substantial amount of COVID resources to put a lot of these on over the last year. That resource it ends for us at the end of September, and so at the end of September we actually go down to the funding is drastically reduced back to where we were before, and a little bit even lower than that. So we're going to have to cut back and do a lot fewer webinars in the months ahead. And so we've been doing 2 of these with James L. West Center every month. We're going to cut back to 1. And at this point, we're going to do the hour one. The hour isn't necessarily a cutback. That has more to do with the topic being able to be covered within an hour's time frame. We may still do some that are an hour and a half and some that are an hour, but we probably will be cutting back to 1 a month as opposed to the 2 a month we've been doing with them. And then it'll also affect some of the other webinars we're doing as well. Did you have anything you want to add about that, Jamie?
No, we just hope y'all can join us.
Very